Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast. I'm your host, Hiking Bob Falcone. You can find me on my website at hikingbob.com, which has links to my social media, my columns at the Colorado Springs Independent, although they're kind of on hold right now. The other podcasts we've done, my photography website, which check that out for gift ideas for this holiday season. And also you can contact me there and send me your suggestions, thoughts, comments, whatever, even ideas for future hosts or topics, and you can do all that at hikingbob.com. Today, continuing with my series of podcasts with participants in the 2023 Give Pikes Peak campaign, I have Krisitie Nackord, who is with the Palmer Land Conservancy. And Krisitie, you are the Vice President of External Affairs, something like that. Do I have that right?
You got that right.
Okay. So you're the person everybody comes to talk to when they want to know what's going on.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm the megaphone for Palmer and my team.
There you go. There you go. Great. Well, you're the perfect person to talk to for this because, as we've been doing these podcasts with groups that are in the Give, the idea is to give you the opportunity to tell people what you're about and really make your pitch for why they should give to you guys during the Give campaign. So I guess we'll start off with, tell us what the Palmer Land Conservancy does.
Yes, thank you. Well, we have been participants, fortunately, in the Give campaign for many years. We're very fortunate to the campaign. And Palmer Land Conservancy has been in existence for over 46 years now. We were founded in 1977 by a passionate group of volunteers, and actually was an arm and formed out of the Colorado Springs Parks and Recreation Department, because this group of volunteers saw the need to start partnering with the city to start protecting some of our beloved open spaces, including at the time, the backdrop of Garden of the Gods. And now rushing forward 46 years later, we've protected 20 public parks and open spaces in the Pikes Peak region.
Great. And when you say protecting, tell us what that means. Is this like easements, or what does it mean when you say you're protecting? I mean, we're all obviously, and especially in my position over at the parks with tops and things like that, all want to protect it. But tell us what that means when you say you're protecting it. What means how do you do that? You buy land? What do you do?
That's such a great question. Well, in the conservation toolbox, we are a land trust by trade. We're a 501c3. And in our conservation toolbox, how we get conservation done, we have various tools. But when it comes to our parks and open spaces, over the years, we have partnered with the city and the county. And together they will acquire land. And in some cases, we help them acquire that land through a grant making process. So definitely through funding. But ultimately, the final outcome is that we have a tool called a conservation easement, which sounds so boring and so technical. But really, at the end of the day, it is the most enforceable tool, real estate transaction tool available to us to ensure land will never be developed, stronger than a wilderness designation, public lands designation. And they are placed on each one of these parks and open spaces, and they'll forever be as you see them today.
So the idea is that when those easements get put in, they dictate the rules that are to be put in place for that parcel of land, like no motorized equipment, no building houses or stuff like that. Is that kind of what those easements do?
Yes, each easement has its own, they're tailored to each property and to each landowner. Some prohibit vehicle use, certainly all prohibit development. So yeah, generally speaking, what you'll see is non-development and non-extraction of resources.
Okay, so they help secure like the mineral rights and water rights and all that other stuff, not just...
Yeah, you're not going to see any high-rise hotels.
No fracking going on any of these lands or anything like that?
No big developments in the backdrop of Garden of the Gods. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one. And I guess from what I understand is it's not just parks and open spaces. You also help people conserve like farmland and ranch land. Is that correct?
Yeah. So at Palmer, we have 4 key areas of conservation priorities and focus. Those are our Land for Food program, which is working with farmers and ranchers, private landowners who are interested in protecting their land. That's our local food resources. Land for Nature, which is generally what we talk about is all those sort of scenic open spaces, the views to Pikes Peak that we don't want interrupted, the sweeping views up Highway 24 as you're going towards Divide. We have our Land for People work, which is central. People are central to our work at Palmer. And that is what we call our Parks, Open Space, and Trails program. The part of the work that we're talking about, we do a lot of work in the trail space. And then we have our Water for Life program. And that is also related to our farmland work. But that is where we're a statewide leader, where we're helping to develop and innovate new water sharing tools to find these balances between municipal needs, which we all need that for our growing cities, while also maintaining agriculture in our community. So to present day, Palmer serves all of Southern Colorado with a focus in Southeastern Colorado. And that's where a lot of our farm and ranch land and water conservation work is occurring.
And that's just as important as, we obviously we're here talking about parks and open spaces and trails, but obviously preserving that farmland is just as important, and that ranch land just as important as everything else we're doing here. It keeps the very valuable ranch land from becoming developed or something like that. So, I mean, it's all of this is very important, even if it doesn't directly affect recreation per se. It's still, even if nothing else, I'm thinking of it as a recreational person, even if nothing else, just preserving that view, that it's a nice open space instead of, dotted with a bazillion buildings of whatever kind.
Exactly.
It's still very valuable. Obviously we need ranch land and farmland. We got to eat something.
We do. I think for better or for worse, the pandemic really shined a light on our imperative need for local food resources, right? How many times did we each show up to the grocery store? I mean, aside from toilet paper, the value of having fresh, healthy local food at our fingertips is really important to the health of our individuals and our communities. And there's others who work in this space as well. But if there is no land, there is no food. And sadly, the stark statistics are showing us that we're losing over 140 acres of basically farm and ranch land and open land every hour nationally in our country. So yes, there's an ecological impact and an environmental impact. There's a deep, deep impact to our communities. Agriculture and water are a significant part of our rural communities in Colorado. And most of us know about Crowley County, those who've been in Colorado long enough, our friends in southeastern Colorado, and what happened when the community, no longer had water as its core resource. Basically, it vaporized.
Yeah, there's some parts of the state really have been having, troubles with water and resources. And as we know, water tables are dropping, the Colorado River is dropping. I mean, just so many things going on with that kind of stuff. Tell us, we talk about recreation primarily, but it's good to know about all this other stuff. Tell us about some places here in the Colorado Springs, the Pikes Peak region that Palmer Land Conservancy has helped preserve, that people might be familiar with, that they might go and have a picnic on or ride a bike on or hike on or something like that. Give us an idea of some places people may not even realize you were involved in.
Yes, I love that. Some of our most beloved and cherished landscapes. And I just have to say, we have a field guide. Bob, do you have yours? That is our guide to these 20 public parks and open spaces. Is anyone who joins us during the Give campaign gets one of these for free. And so it talks about each one of the properties we conserved, gives a little bit of the history of when it was conserved and who we partnered with. But I think everyone knows Red Rock Canyon Open Space, Stratton, Ute Valley Park, Bear Creek Regional Park, Paint Mines, if you head east. There's some treasured landscapes that I think it's just a real beautiful thing to know that they will always be there. Always be there. And that's the legacy of Palmer. It's so funny. We're a land trust. And I know a lot of folks sort of have a sense of what a land trust means, but at the end of the day, we have this audacious thing called perpetuity. It means we have to be here forever. And most 501c3s have not said that.
Right.
Nor have for-profit businesses, right? They don't have to worry about that. They can go out of business any day. We can't go out of business. We go out of business and those lands are threatened. And so we really feel that we take that mission very seriously. So every year we go out to those parks and we do basically what we call a monitoring to make sure nothing has occurred that shouldn't be. And we partner really closely with the city and county on those efforts. And so every year we make sure we're there.
So you're out there, with the city and county parks departments, make sure they're living up to their part of the bargain, which is, whatever rules were put in place for that land that you guys helped establish with their easements, your conservation easements, also making sure that any of the neighbors, I'm guessing, aren't kind of like edging over the fence line a little bit and doing something they're not supposed to be doing.
We have our boundaries. That's right. Yeah. And generally speaking, we live in a wonderful community. And so our job has been fairly easy, but we don't know what it'll be in 30 or 40 years. So it's wonderful to know we have that guarantee today forever.
And all these easements, these conservation easements you help put in with these public lands, they are forever easements. Is that correct?
Forever.
They're forever.
That crazy thing of forever. Like, how long's forever? Forever.
It is until it isn't.
Get your mind around that. But again, as I mentioned, they have strong legal teeth. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
So, I've heard people, and I would like to say there are people who are skeptical of just about anything. Say, oh, it doesn't matter what the conservation easement is. They can just change that whenever they want. That's not necessarily the case. It sounds like it almost take like an act of Congress and a papal blessing to get some of these things changed.
Even with an act of Congress, that's the power of basically a private real estate agreement such as this. And Colorado is a statewide conservation leader. We live in a wonderful state that has really led the way in all this. And there are a lot of enforcement tactics surrounding and all that sort of are the back side of our business that nobody really needs to know about. And the conservation community really rallies together to make sure, so there's a lot of commitment to these agreements. And in Colorado, like state legislators, we have a very nonpartisan elected officials, but conservation in general is very nonpartisan. It's very unifying. Everyone wants these spaces for our own very reasons, but I think we are very fortunate. We have quite a legacy of conservation in our state, but even nationally.
So it's not like these things can be changed on a whim. I mean, they are pretty, it sounded to me like they are pretty bulletproof conservation easements.
Pretty much. Yeah.
It's great. And being a member of the TOPS working committee, I know that we've worked with you guys in the past, and in just the last 5 years, I think since I've been on there, worked a lot with you guys and other groups to do this kind of stuff, to preserve these lands that we're spending money to buy and just make sure that they stay within the public realm and allow people to use them and enjoy them, if nothing else, just to preserve them from being destroyed. And just it's a very valuable work. And I guess the thing is that this is not an anti-development thing. It's a reasonable protection kind of a goals, I guess is the best way to put it. I mean, we're not like we're saying we don't want development. Obviously, people have to have places to live and shop and things like that. But this is preserving special places.
Absolutely. We take at Palmer, very inclusive approach to conservation. And I think there are certainly places that we all agree that we shouldn't develop, Garden of the Gods. And there are others where development is absolutely needed and warranted, and we need housing and homes. And Palmer really enjoys working at that interface. We do partner with developers. We did a wonderful project last year up in northeastern Colorado Springs, working with a developer that set aside 200 acres. We've done that in our history. We continue to do that. We work with developers who are interested in putting in trails within their developments. And so we're always looking, and I think that's the goal, because change is upon us. Nothing's going to ever change the fact that change is constant. I mean, that's true. And so the real win is working together in partnership and finding what I call those win-win-wins. What is a win-win-win? It's where the environment wins. It's where our municipal partners can win. And when we're in our agricultural communities, the agriculture gets to win too. Like, there is a way to do this type of work where everybody wins. And that's what we're looking for. Great.
So let's talk a little bit about moving forward. We got this big Give campaign going on. You guys are raising money to help promote your cause and promote, to keep doing the work that you're doing. If people give to you during this campaign, what do you foresee happening in the coming year with the support that you're getting from the public?
Yeah, we're in the middle of a really bold and ambitious 5-year strategic plan at Palmer, where we've set forth some pretty significant goals. A couple of years ago, we went through a pretty significant community listening session called Elevate the Peak, where we listened to 1,200 people. And the feedback was a resounding: conservation cannot wait. Our time is now. And we know this. We look around with climate change and everything that's going on. We must act. And so with that, from what we heard and who we are and the tools that we have at Ready and Access, our board of directors said 5 new parks in 5 years. So I think we have 20 that we did in 46 years. We want to do another 5 in 5 years, right? Bold and ambitious. But our time is now, and that's not just in Colorado Springs. We serve Southern Colorado, so we're looking at Pueblo. We have an office as well in southeastern Colorado. We also are a partner on, and some of our listeners may have seen some current press on this. It was published recently. We are partners with TNC and Trust for Public Land on an initiative called, the acronym is SOAR. Nothing. We always have so many acronyms, right? Yep. But it's security, open space, agricultural readiness. But basically, it's partnering with the military in our community, across the Air Force and so on, and the Army, where we are looking to conserve over the next 10 to 15 years, 80,000 acres. This has mutual benefits for the community, and we're the community partner in the project, and TNC and TPL are our national partners in the project, where we're safeguarding lands around military bases so that they can have safety and readiness, military readiness. It makes sense. We don't need development encroaching into our military installations. But big swaths of land for the environment are protected, which is great for our community. And while most of it will be private lands, there will most likely in the future be some access. So that's a really important, as we all know, the military is so important to El Paso County and our economy. So we're partnering there, and that's 5 in 5. And then our water work, I would love to just highlight that. And I think everyone in Colorado Springs, no one is exempt from hearing about what's happening on the Colorado, this water issue that's of national interest. It's certainly happening in our own backyard in Pueblo. And we're at the interface of this really interesting opportunity, a very long-term project that is conserving that farmland. But as I said, it's finding those win-win solutions where the municipality does receive water, and we're also protecting critical farmland. And so we don't see what's been happening. We want to prevent what's been happening in rural Colorado. And so those are just some of our big initiatives that are happening in the coming year. It's long-term work, it's exciting work, it's highly impactful. And I think the investment from our members at this time also, we have some big goals financially for ourselves to fund all of this work, but we really recognize that people make conservation happen. This does not happen without people. It doesn't happen without you, Bob, with me, with all our other members, with our board of trustees, those who volunteer with us. And so we need people with their time, whether it's with their votes, whether it's their investment in Palmer or other nonprofits in the region. We are all needed for this big effort.
I'm thinking about the SOAR project with the military, and I'm thinking, makes sense. Nobody wants to build their house at the edge of an artillery range or something like that. But and people may not realize this, but and I'm ex-military, but military installations typically have a pretty robust, what's the word I'm looking for? Wildlife program. They have their own parks and rec and game people, especially the really large military installations, have their own departments that take care of that stuff. We're used to CPW and the Forest Service and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, but a lot of these military installations have their own people who are taking care of that stuff on their property. So I'm envisioning that what you're talking about, expanding their reach a little bit, and maybe not necessarily, I guess they're not necessarily making it part of the military installation, just protecting the area around it.
Exactly.
Actually helps with their trying to preserve what they have on their properties too. I mean, they obviously have military members who want to go enjoy the outdoors, and maybe they don't want to, it's easier for them to do it on base than it is to go off post or something like that to do it. So it's kind of an interesting project, and I wasn't aware of that, but it's a pretty interesting project.
Yeah, I have to send you some of the articles that just came out. Yes, and it's also really imperative to their military readiness. So encroaching development, all their flight paths are jeopardized, obviously, all their other operations. And so a lot of this land that is under consideration for conservation and that this initiative is working toward is owned by the State Land Board. And so there's a lot of deep partnerships going on between State Land Board, Department of Defense. It's their program. They're bringing a lot of federal dollars that will be coming to our community. So it's this really rich and dynamic program that, again, we're partnering with TNC and TPL on. They're incredible. They've done this in other communities. And so Colorado Springs is a key priority for them, and so we're fortunate to be working with them. So
I imagine some of this is going on around Fort Carson.
Yeah.
Way cool. That's an interesting people just don't think of that military installations doing conservation, but they actually have a pretty good conservation program. So it's really interesting to hear that you guys are, um, you're part of that, and that there is actually a military land conservation program going on. It's,
No,
I've
national.
hiked, yeah, and it's national. I mean, I've hiked, some trails that start at the, in the Air Force Academy and go outside of the Air Force Academy, and they have their own people up there and their own conservation things, and they'll tell you when they're going in and out of their land and stuff like that. But a lot of people just may not realize that. What do you see at Palmer as the biggest challenge facing land conservation right now? Is it the water issue? What do you see as the biggest challenge that we're dealing with? You talk to the parks people, they say it's the number of people. Which that's not going to change. But is that the biggest thing, or do you see something else as the biggest challenge facing land conservation right now?
Yes.
I know I'm putting you a little bit on the spot, but
no, I have my answer. I'm clear about this.
Great. But I don't feel so bad.
I really, as I was saying earlier, we truly believe this at Palmer. We live this, we breathe this. People make conservation happen. But our biggest issue is not enough people know or care about conservation right now. And I think because it's been perceived for so long as an intangible sort of elite for rich people, and that's fine. But actually, it's so much more than that. And if you look at nationally, philanthropically, where the majority of monies go, private philanthropy, I think it's something like, and it's declining. The environment is still getting less than 3%. And I think we're sharing a piece of that pie with the animals. And I love my animals. I'm just saying, and so people, I think at times we can feel, I know this in my own self. My gosh, I read the news, I read books, I'm in the business. It can feel overwhelming globally, nationally. We're always sort of getting bombarded with just really challenging information. And I think as we wade through that at a very local level, I don't think people realize just how much power they really do have. I think we sort of forget that kind of collectively in our own power of choice, where we vote, where we invest our time. And I'll just use local food as an example here. The more we are buying our produce from our local farmers, we're creating that demand, which then in turn creates the supply, and it just builds that economic engine, which makes it a vital and viable way of life for farmers and ranchers, which then keeps us fed and healthy within our community. There's such a beautiful reciprocity. And what a simple act that may seem. And I know we've been saying this for decades, or maybe a decade, eat local, buy local. We just had Small Business Saturday. But I don't want us to forget that act. And I'm going to point out something, and I know your listeners can't see me, but we have another guide, and it's it's Palmer's Southern Colorado Local Food Guide that we published during the pandemic. And it was specific. It's why would Palmer do this, right? It's a listing of all of our food producers where you can buy direct. It's a listing of all our farmers markets, because I think the more we can make conservation more readily accessible and easy and understandable, and helping people connect the dots to their, if you just picked one of these booklets up and shopped a couple of times from one of these farmers, that's, in my opinion, a very powerful act. So I feel that to us is and when I say us, I mean collectively in the environmental sector, we need more people. We need you. We need more Bobs. We need to amplify our megaphone. We need to be able to invest in ourselves in terms of getting our message out that our donors feel is a viable way and a good way to use their dollars. So Palmer's embarking on some of that. We're going to be releasing a lot of that new stuff next year. I'm really excited to share some of that. But for now, I just want people to know that they're central to our success and to the success of conservation. And again, I just know that when you read that global news and wildfires are doing things like we've never seen before, flooding, everywhere, it can feel almost impossible. But I really do believe in the power of the individual. Off my soapbox now.
No, the whole point of this is for you to be on your soapbox. I'm glad you are. So I guess it would not be hard to imagine that your goal for the coming year, besides all your conservation stuff, is a bigger public awareness campaign, public education campaign, make people more aware of what you're doing. People do, and I'm going to go back a little bit here. There was we did some podcasts a couple of months ago about private land, and some people own 14ers and they're not allowing people on there, and we've had a debate on that. Should they be allowed to do that? Shouldn't they be allowed to do that? So some people have conservation. They're thinking those really mega millionaire people who
Sure.
not letting people on their property, but that's really not what it's about. They don't need your help. They have millions and millions of dollars, and big time lawyers do that. You're really helping like the small rancher, the small
Farmer.
farmer, the city or county government or whatever that has limited amount of funds to actually preserve lands for everybody and preserve farmland and ranch. Well, that's really who you're helping. You're not helping the big mega donors. They've got all the resources they need. You're helping the
Yeah, and full
people.
disclosure, we would hold an easement on one of those with those mega donors. Like we don't discriminate, right?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, that landowner will not always be the landowner, but we will always be there.
Right.
So it's always having this like long-term vision. And I really respect people's opinions on both sides, on all sides. I empathize. We all empathize at Palmer. Like we understand. And I just like Palmer so believes we just come right down that middle and we are there to hold the easement, because at the end of the day, that will be there. That will be there. You and I will be long gone, but I get to know that will be there. That, i.e., that means that land will be there. That's sacred and that's needed. And so we can't change minds. We can't change behaviors, but we can do the things that we can do. And so, I do think it's an interesting sort of, you're sort of parsing out kind of where we find ourselves. And yes, Palmer, it definitely a lot. We have an office in Pueblo, and we work so closely with the farming community down there. They're multi-generational, they're hardworking, they're humble. And that is definitely where a lot of our time and energy goes in terms of our farmland conservation work.
Great. So tell us where people can find you on the web, on social media, how they can contact you. If they want to get a copy of these guidebooks, can they get them from you? Give us some more. How can people contact you, get more information?
Yes. So our website is palmerland.org. And our handles on social are Palmer Land Co. Palmer Land Co. So we're on Instagram and Facegram, that too. One day they'll merge. What is Twitter now? X? Like I still can't. We're gonna call it
Twitter's mostly irrelevant.
I know. You know what? Full disclosure, I'm Gen X. I can't keep up with all this. Yeah. But we're out there, and we're also in here. We're in Colorado Springs. That's where our office is. Yes, you can pick up food guides from us. Yes, we have field guides. We would love to distribute these in mass out to the community. We would love for you to join us as a member if you're interested, or to renew. We do have big goals. We are trying to grow our organization to 2,000 members over the next 5 years. And that is a really big goal, especially when we're sitting at 500. So we need more people at any level of investment, any level of commitment. We really welcome you all. And if that is not a time to invest, still please engage with our resources. Sharing our story or our name is so powerful as well.
Yep. Join me in being a member of Palmer Land, and be a member and be a contributor if you can. Even if it's one time, or like I do it over the course of the year, be a contributor, because land we wouldn't have, or certainly wouldn't be protected if it wasn't for the work you guys are doing. One other question I had for you, do you guys have like volunteer opportunities? Do you do things where you have outreach that you can use volunteers? Sometimes people say, I don't have money to contribute, but I have time and I want to get out there. Do you guys have opportunities for volunteers to help you, or do you help them find a place to go if they want to volunteer?
Such a great question. Historically, our friends at Rimfee and Tusk always have these wonderful volunteer opportunities. Please go check them out. Okay. Because we don't build trail. We're sort of in a different time. We're there kind of underneath the trail, making sure the trails are always there. That's our job, right? That being said, our stewardship manager, Theron Verna, is amazing, and he's been building a volunteer program for us. Big shout out to Theron. And we've been partnering with Colorado College with students over the last semester and into the next semester, but we're also going to be expanding that in the coming year. And so he's been welcoming some of the college students. I think they are each volunteering, thank goodness for them, 20 hours each semester, doing all sorts of things for Palmer, but definitely getting out on the land with us and doing some basically, invasive species removal. They've also come into our office and helping us work on projects. So here's what I say. If you feel that you want to learn more about Palmer and volunteer, please call, please email me, Kristie, Kristie at palmerland.org, because we just don't know yet. What are your gifts? We'd love to marry you into our organization and find a good fit. So all that being said, we don't have a robust formal program. We're building one, and no matter what, we would love your support.
Awesome. Well, Kristie, thank you so much for being on. Thank you for answering a lot of questions about what you guys do and really explaining it very well. And of course, that's your job. You're the outreach person. So I expected nothing less, and you obviously did it. But it helps people who are sitting there looking at their Give website, saying, "Who should I contribute to?" Knowing more about what you guys do is really important for people to help them make the decision. And obviously, I think they should. I think they should go down the whole list and give to everybody. But people have to pick and choose sometimes. So I hope they pick you guys.
Well, thank you. One last thing, we're having an event. We're having an event at Ivy Wild, Pints with Palmer. The first pint is on us on December 14th at 5:30. You can get all the information on that event on our website, palmerland.org. But it's a great way. Just come have a pint with us and get to know us. Our staff will be there, and we'll just be talking conservation. It's very casual, and we'll have some light bites.
That's my wife's birthday. Maybe she's doesn't know yet, but we will be going to Ivy Wild for her birthday.
You give her free beer. Oh, honey.
There we go. Well, Kristie, thank you again for being on and for talking to me for a little bit about this and for all the work you guys do. I know, being involved where I'm at, we couldn't preserve these lands and make sure that they stay in the public domain if it wasn't for the work you do to do all the, like I like to describe it, the legal and administrative stuff, the background stuff. And I know some of your, the people you have involved there in the legal side of things, that's got to be mundane, detailed work. But without that being done the right way, and you guys do it the right way, we would not have these lands that are protected, like you said, in perpetuity. And that means forever. I had to look it up. That means forever. So
we'll have to give a big shout out to Steve Harris. I wonder if that's who you're thinking about.
I am thinking about Steve.
Yes, Steve. We love Steve.
Been involved for years in all manner of this stuff, and a great asset to Palmer Land. Steve's just wonderful and does great work. So
agreed.
And he's been in a position like me, been on tops and parks boards and things like that, and been involved in that stuff, and really helps with that. So thanks to him and you and everybody who you have working there, and for doing some great work, and really appreciate it. I don't know if people realize we wouldn't have this land if it wasn't. We had the money to buy it, but without the paperwork to preserve it, we wouldn't
paperwork. We'll put that in air quotes. It's these really sophisticated real estate transactions that are enforceable forever. And that's what we do.
And it's got to be pretty detailed stuff, I imagine. I can't imagine how detailed.
Good attorneys.
I read an instruction manual, my eyes glaze over. I couldn't do that, but I'm thankful for the people who can and do it to take care of everything. Well, Kristie, thank you again for being on the podcast. We really appreciate it. Best of luck during the Give campaign. I hope you and everybody else are very successful and raise a lot of money and keep doing wonderful things.
Thank you so much, Bob. You have a great holiday season. Really appreciate the opportunity.
You too, and thank you so much. And thanks, everybody, for listening to the Outdoors with Hiking Bob podcast.